The autocorrect feature will automatically correct most spelling errors, and it's activated when you hit the space bar. So for example, let me go ahead and click on the text, activate the text box, and let me go ahead and type in a word that I'm going to misspell intentionally so I can show you the autocorrect feature in action. And let's misspell the word the. Let's type it T-E-H. Now after I hit the space bar, the autocorrect feature is going to kick in and it's going to check the word that I just typed in front of the space after I hit the space bar. And if it finds a hit within the database, then it'll cross-reference that to the correct spelling and automatically replace that misspelled word. So hit the space bar. Oh, you see that? Isn't that fun? It saves some work. So I can go ahead and always misspell the word the, although in principle it's not a good idea because then you probably get used to it, especially if you type in a program that doesn't have the autocorrect features. So after you type it in, you're like, wait a second, that's the name of my good buddy Tay or Ta. Well, you can hover over it and you get that little orange line, the first letter in the word that had the autocorrect applied to it. Hover over that line, it expands it to the autocorrect options, click on it, and you get your options. Now you can do it one time like, hey, let's just keep it back to Tay or Ta. But if you're like, no, I changed my mind, then hover over it again, and then hover over the orange, click on it, and then redo. Hover, I'm going to do this again so I can explain the rest. And then what I did when I typed in T-E-H, the T, the first letter in the sentence, was lowercase. So it says, do you want to stop auto-capitalizing the first letter of sentences? So if I say, yeah, and I check it, it's going to do it permanently. So it undoes what it did, and now all the first letters in sentences that I type, if it's lowercase, it'll keep it lowercase. I don't like that, so let's go ahead and hover, hover, click, and uncheck that, and then hover over the word, hover over that orange little line, click on it, and then the last one here is stop automatically correcting TEH. So that's a temporary fix, so you can go ahead and type in TEH again in somewhere else in the presentation here on one of the slides, and it'll automatically correct it. But if you want it permanent, because hey, Tay, I use him a lot in my presentation, I don't want to have to keep having it automatically corrected, so you can stop that here and it will revert it back to, well, TEH. Never to be misspelled again when you type in TEH or fix it automatically for you. We just have to train PowerPoint's autocorrect. So let's go back and then click on it. And I'm going to uncheck that so I can go back to the. But if you do want to train PowerPoint, its autocorrect, to have certain words that you type in to automatically correct for you, go ahead and click on it and it's right there. Control autocorrect options. Click on it, opens up the window, and here's some of the defaults like, capitalize the first letter of sentences that we had that option when we typed it in and then we checked it to stop doing that. Well, if after you close out of PowerPoint, you open it back up and you're like, oh, I wish I actually didn't do that. I want it to capitalize the first letter of sentences. You don't have to go ahead and recreate an error to get that little smart tag to click on to go ahead and bring up the autocorrect options window. I mean, well, you could, but I would say better yet, let's close out of it. Just go backstage. Come up here, click on the File tab, go back down to Options, and then we're looking for on the proofing over here to, there you go, change how PowerPoint corrects and formats text as you type. Click on autocorrect. Well, that's auto format as you type, but well, that's another topic. Let's stick to autocorrect. So, if this wasn't checked because you say stop capitalizing the first letter of sentences, well, then come back up here and check it. In any case, you can check what you would like it to do or uncheck it if you don't. And then down below is where you can go ahead and control it. So for example, you can see on the left-hand side, replace, if they type in a open parentheses, the letter C, close, with the symbol copyright. And you can go ahead and customize this and say, okay, if somebody types in my name, Kurt, hit the tab key, you can replace it with, he is totally tinsel. And then go ahead and click add and click okie dokie, click OK. And so when I type in Kurt, hit the space bar, he is totally tinsel. Now that may freak somebody out, but in any case, you can go ahead and have whatever's typed replaced with something else. Maybe it's an April Fool's joke, but really, we only use PowerPoint for good, so make sure it's something that's going to work for you to help make your data entry more efficient. Now to go ahead and change this, well, when you hover over something that was autocorrect made, as in this, typing in my name, well, you can go ahead and click on it and go to Options, or change it back to Kurt, or stop automatically correcting it. Well, you can go backstage, file the options, but since we have it here, let's go ahead and click on Control It to open it back up. And then to find me, go ahead and type in me, and there it is right there. He is totally tinsel. Once it's highlighted, go ahead and delete it, and it's gone. Oh man, I'm no longer tinsel. Click okie dokie, and then go ahead and type in Kurt. Hit the space bar to activate. Oh, I only get my name here. Well, that's still pretty cool. Now, whenever you see a red squiggly line underneath a word, that means that PowerPoint is saying that that's a misspelled word. And to go ahead and fix it, you can either delete it and then go ahead and type in the correct spelling for how to hunt ghosts training videos. Yeah, or you can go ahead and right-click on it to get a hint. Pun intended. In any case, you get a shortcut menu of other options like hunt. Okay, that works. Go ahead and left-click on that and how to hunt ghost training videos. And then let's go to the next one, paranormal. Let's go ahead and right-click on that one. And if it is spelled correctly, but PowerPoint says, no, I think it's misspelled, you can fight it later on and just say ignore it for now, meaning that all those words that are misspelled the same way as this one here throughout the presentation will be ignored during this session. So when you open up PowerPoint again, it'll have the red squiggly line underneath it. But if you want to make it permanent, then go ahead and click on Add to Dictionary, and oopsie doodle, if we made a mistake and we're like, no, really, that is misspelled, then that's okay. Let's go ahead and go to the custom dictionary and delete it from the dictionary so that way it doesn't consider this as the correct spelling for paranormal. To do that, just come backstage, click on File, go down to Options, and then go to Proofing, and then come down and click on Custom Dictionaries, and it's right there. Select Custom Dictionary, then click on Edit Word List, and if you find something in here that you added that you didn't mean to, like the uppercase P, go ahead and delete it. And the other one here that we just did was paramal. Select that and delete it. And you can see other words that it considers misspelled that I had to add here. And you can right-click on it to add it to the dictionary in the slide view working area, or you can come up here and type it in and click Add, like SSS, and add it. And well, we won't add that. Select it, delete it. Click OK, click OK, click OK. Let's click off and give it a second. In fact, there we go. We had to click outside of the text box for it to refresh, and now it considers it misspelled because it's no longer that spelling in the dictionary. Go ahead and right-click on it and say it's paranormal. And then click off, and instead of doing that for each slide, selecting and right-clicking, selecting and right-clicking, you can come up here, go to the Review tab, go to the Proofing group, and do a complete sweep through of all the slides within your presentation by clicking on it, or as you can see in the pop-up, by hitting the F7 key on the keyboard. So let's do F7, and it goes through each slide, and it says, okay, we found this word, we think it's misspelled, is it? And it says, here's what we suggest. You typed in infrared. Let's see, we use infrared night vision goggles. Okay, I think that's infrared. So you can go ahead with it selected and click on change, or you can ignore it once, just this time to skip it, or ignore all of them with the same misspelling here. And again, it's just for this session, so when you close out a PowerPoint, reopen it, it'll have the red squiggly back. Or you can go ahead and add this to the dictionary saying, yeah, this is the way it's supposed to be spelled. And let's see, you can change all of it. So if you have multiple misspellings, exactly as you see it here, I'll go throughout the entire presentation and change all of them. And look, infrared, you can have it pronounced to you.
Infrared.
Okay, infrared. And it's ultraviolet electromagnetic X-ray. Oh, that's nice. In any case, let's go ahead and just click on change. It changes it, and did it change it? Because as soon as it changes, it jumps right to the next slide that has a misspelling here, and that's training nig. In any case, let's go back to slide 3, and there it is. We use infrared, so it did change it. So let's go ahead and come back up here because, we got out of sequence. Click on resume to go back to where the next error is. And so let's see, is a professional training company? No, it's training. So let's go ahead with training selected, click on change. And it says spell check is complete, you're good to go. Click okie dokie, and that's it. The Smart Lookup feature is used to search a selected word, and in the task pane it'll pop it open to reveal more about it, like to explore it or to get the definition of it. So for example, how to hunt ghost training videos. What is the word hunt? I want to define that. Let's go ahead and click on it. You don't have to select the word hunt. You can just click anywhere within it and either come up here and click on the Review tab and go to the Insights group, and there you go, Smart Lookup, or you can go ahead and right-click on the word, and in the shortcut menu, there it is, Smart Lookup. Click on it, it opens up the task pane, and you can explore it or get the definition of it. Well, exploring does give us the definition. Pursue and kill a wild animal for sport or food, but you can go to define and get a little bit more detailed, and the same thing here, but hey, you also get the pronunciation of it. Click on it.
Hunt.
I don't know if you can hear that. In any case, it's a girl saying hunt, hunt, hunt. Well, that's nice. Let's go back to explore. So if we want a little bit more than just the definition, well, it does give it to you. You can go ahead and scroll down here and you get more. So if you want more for the definition, click on it and it expands it and tries to give you more. Let's go ahead and scroll back and it goes over to define. So we need to go back to explore. So that's what more is. It takes you over to the definition page here in the task pane. Let's scroll down so we won't do any more of that, pun intended. And then how about Wikipedia? So people, hunt, surname. All right, let's go ahead and click on it. Opens up Wikipedia and that's self-explanatory. If you want to go ahead and get a little bit more detailed and explore on Wikipedia, like Hunt County, Texas. Let's go ahead and scroll down. Ooh, images. I'm about images. So we've got, looks like a cheetah chasing a gazelle. Well, you can click on more if you want to see more images and they're larger. Yep, I was right. It's a cheetah. Ooh, that seems like a wild hunt. Go ahead and click on it. Opens up Bing and there it is right there. And you've got more pictures to go off of here. So let's go ahead and close out of that. And anything else? No, let's go ahead and scroll up. Click the arrow to go back to our Explore page and we can go back to exploring Wikipedia or again more images. Let's close out of that. Next I want to go over is the Thesaurus, which is a collection of synonyms, different words that basically mean the same thing as an alternative choice for a word. So when I was in my journalism class and I got this huge article, let's say about hunting ghosts, if I kept using the word hunt, like we're hunting and then we hunt them down, we had to hunt, well, that's over redundancy and you may lose the reader. So what my instructor recommended is that we find a different word that has the same meaning so you don't lose the meaning or you don't lose the reader by using the same word over and over again. So what we can do is we can go ahead and right click on the word and go down to synonyms. And there you go. Let's see. How to search ghost. How to expedition rummage. That ain't working. How to pursue. Let's click on that. Updates it. How to pursue ghost training videos. I guess. In any case, you can go ahead and right click on it again, go down to synonyms, and then if you don't find what you're looking for here, you can open up the Thesaurus, opens up the task pane and gives you more options here. So it's based on pursue. You can go ahead and type in something else and do a search. And in any case, since we're here, we can go back to hunt. And if you want to insert that over what's selected here, pursue, then you can either click on the drop down arrow and insert it, or you can right click. It brings up the same shortcut menu and insert it. Cool. Or you can go ahead and right click on it and copy it so you can, find another place within the slide here and Control V as in Victor to paste it. That works. The accessibility checker checks the document for content that people with disabilities might find difficult to read. And to be able to find out if we have any issues with those who do have disabilities to read my presentation, let's go backstage, File, and Info selected by default, and go down to Check for Issues, click on it, and it's right there, Check Accessibility. Click on it, and it opens up over here in the task pane any errors that it finds, like missing alternative text. So all these are missing alternative text. Let's go to one, click on the flow chart, and it's this one right here, that arrow. This one's also missing it, so when I click on that one, it updates it over to that arrow. And why would that be an issue? Well, with somebody who can't see this, how about if we had some alternative text that they can hear it and have it play back to them on their computer? So what we can do is let's go ahead and go back to this one and let's right click on it and go to Format Shape. Opens up the task pane here, and let's go to our size and properties, click on that and go down to alt text or alternative text, expand it. And that's what we're missing. You can hover over that little I for information, and it says titles and descriptions provide alternative text-based representations of the information contained in tables, diagrams. This information is useful for people with vision or cognitive impairment who may not be able to see or understand the object. A title can be read to the person with the disability and is used to determine whether they wish to hear the description of the content. So title could be a right, you could say right pointing arrow, just say right arrow, and then get a description saying something like that. In the process, this is an arrow pointing to the next step or shape. and you could probably type it in if you like, shoot, so point, shoot, and follow. Great. So that's all you have to do is go ahead and do that to clean it up, and then once you go through, and let's close out of that, and you fix all of these, and notice how after I added it to this shape here, automatically cleaned it up over here. And so now I just have the one shape that I can go ahead and right click on and add alternative text to my shape. And then let's see, we got others like warnings, table has merged or split cells. Go ahead and click on that. And I do have one cell that spans across 3 columns. And so it says, don't recommend that. So you may want to go ahead and follow the tip here, and down below it says, why do you want to fix it? Well, tables should have a simple cell structure so they can be easily navigated and understood by people with disabilities, and not get too difficult for them by splitting the cells up or merging the cells as I did. And let's see, we got check reading order, so go ahead and select that, and the order in which they'll be read in, so slide 4, slide 5, and steps to fix. To check reading order of the content, switch to the Home tab, check Arrange, and choose the selection pane. So what that means is that if we come up here on the Home tab and we go over and click on Arrange and we go down to Selection pane, well, for this tab, the reading order is like, well, does it read the text box first, and then the content placeholder, and then the title? The title ought to probably come first, so click and drag that up so those who have disabilities can read, okay, that's the title of the slide, the first thing, so that way they can go, Ghost Hunters, I don't care about that slide, instead of them, starting off with like the content placeholder and going, they read all that and waste all this time when they could have found out that just looking at the title, that's not what they're interested in. So go ahead and rearrange that by clicking and dragging them around so you can have a nice order. And that makes it nice where it gives you the steps on how to fix it. Sectioning slides is grouping slides together under a title for a quick summary of that group. For example, I got a total of 9 slides. I can go ahead and put them off into groups of 3 or section them off, like the first 3 could be like about us, who we are. And then the next 3 from 4 through 6 is about the best ghost hunting practices. And then the last 3, 7 through 9, could be about our revenue. So to go ahead and group these into 3, in this example, I don't know how you're going to group yours, maybe in 4s or 2s, it's up to you. You can go ahead and right-click in between any one of these slides to add a section. Now, I recommend that you right-click up at the top above the first slide to add a section, and then it'll go ahead and give you the option to rename that section, and it includes all the slides down below, as opposed to like right-clicking in between, in this example, well, 3 and 4, because 1 through 3 is going to be my who we are or about us, and then from 4 on, or at least from 4 through 6, is going to be about best hunting practices. Because if you go ahead and add it there, which is okay, when you do that, watch what happens. Well, first of all, it's untitled until you rename it, and it's going to be, let me go ahead and type it here, best hunting practices, and then hit enter on the keyboard. So when you hover over it, because it's being cut off, I can't see it. You can see in the pop-up, it says Best Hunting Practices. You can see the entire title for that section, which includes 6 slides. But what about the 3 up above? Well, they're not going to be left out. They're going to be another section, and it's known as the default section, because when it comes to adding sections, it's got to be all or nothing. So since I added the section here and these guys are left out, they're not going to be left out. They're going to be grouped, but under a generic name called the default section. And that's okay, but like I said, I prefer just right-clicking up here to add a section for all of them, and then going down and right-clicking to add more sections after I add the first one. But if you didn't, and you got the default, and you're like, what's that? Well, go ahead and right-click on it, because you do get the option to rename the section, and that one's going to be about us, and then hit enter. About us includes these 3 slides. Best hunting includes all 6, but I just want it to include up to 6 and not from 7 on. So in between 6 and 7, let's right-click to section that off from 7 on and add a section, and then we can go ahead and rename that, and that's going to be revenue. Hit enter. Great. Now I have a total of 3 groups, 3 sections, 3 slides per section. And this can be very nice, besides easily spotting what those group of slides are about. If I want to add a slide for best hunting practices, and well, it's so teeny tiny, I can't really see in the thumbnail preview which one is about hunting without selecting it, going, oh, it's hunting over here, and selecting it, and oh, hunting view here. In any case, the title gives it away until I hit the next section. So that makes it nice. But in addition to that, when it comes to collaborating with others, you can assign them a section saying, hey, Bob, I'm sending you this presentation, and I want you to work on the revenue section. Go ahead and add another slide about our projections for 2017. Well, it's right there. I mean, they can go ahead and jump right to it. Well, when I say jump, actually, what you can do is you can turn down these little guys here. Well, I say little guys, the triangles, to collapse the section and collapse. Instead of doing it one at a time, you can right-click and get the option to collapse all. Hey, isn't that fun? And then you can just focus on your section here and hover over that, and there you go. It expands it. You can see it 3 slides. And then Bob can just turn that down and focus on these 3, the revenue section, and do what he needs to do there without having these other slides getting in the way. You can also print off these sections, which I'll show you in just a bit. But for right now, let's go ahead and we can collapse that. You can actually rearrange them. So if you want to rearrange like revenue and put it above best hunting, click and hold down the title and drag, and oh, isn't that nice? And click and drag it back because, well, I want to keep it in order. And what other options do you get? Well, you can right click and see the options. You can rename the section, remove the section and the slides. If you remove the section, it just removes the title and it keeps the slides. So we have a total of 9 slides. If I remove this section, what happened to all the other slides? Let's go ahead and expand, and there we go. It got absorbed under the next section. So it said, we're homeless. We need to find the next home, you know, like the 3 little piggies where the wolf blows the house down. Well, you just took away their little hideaway, their group. So they went to the next group underneath it, which is best hunting practices. So that's where 7 through 9 went. So let's go ahead and undo that, and let's go ahead and right click and collapse all again. So we've got them back, our 3 sections here. You can do that, right click on it. Well, when you right click on any of the other sections but the first one, you can remove that section, but you can't do it for the first one because when you remove it, it doesn't give you the option to remove it. But if you did, where are these piggies going to go? These slides, they don't have another house above them to go to. It's in a hierarchical structure. So since there's nobody else above, it says, well, they can't go anywhere, so you can't remove the first section. You can remove this section, and then those that are broken out of the group will be absorbed into the one above. And as we saw, out of revenue gets absorbed into the one above that. And in any case, you can't go from the very top anywhere else up at the top, so it doesn't allow you to, when you right click on it, remove that section. Let's see, you can also remove all sections if you want to. Well, there you go. Go back to just your slide view, but let me go ahead and hit undo and right click. And you can do the section moves if you don't want to click and drag. Let me go ahead and collapse all first, and let's right click on the middle one and say we want to move it down so it's below the revenue. But I like clicking and dragging. That just works best for me. And then right click, and we've got again our collapse all and expand all. So there you go. Now what about printing off, like let's say the revenue section? Let's come up here, click on the File tab, go backstage down to Print. And do you want to print all the slides? No. Click on it. And hey, it's got the name of the sections. I just want the revenue section. Updates it over here. We have a total of 3 slides, and there's 1, 2, 3. Just prints the 3. Oh, that's great. I don't have to go back and select the slides that I want to print. Like select 1, hold down the control key and select 3 or 5. I'm showing you another way to go ahead and print off your selected slides besides section, which actually it would be the last one. Select that one, hold down the shift key and do a block selection, so all 3. But you can also use the control key to select non-linear slides, so like slides 8, 5, and 4, and then click on File. Go backstage down to Print, and then when it comes to, well, not revenue, you can say just print your selection. So when you select that, how many did I have selected? A total of 3, 8, 5, and 4. So there's 4, 5, and 8. The transition is going from one slide to the next, and that means it's animated. So when you begin your presentation, like if you come up here, click on the Slideshow tab, and you start your slideshow like from the beginning, or you can do it from the current slide, like if you're on slide 3 and you want to begin your presentation from that. Well, we'll cover this in a later training video, but for right now, let's go ahead and begin from the beginning. Click on it. it just pops up. And when I go from one slide to the next and I click on the mouse button, you see how it just pops. I mean, that could be okay, but if you want something that has a smoother effect and not jarring where it pops right in front of you, especially if the objects or shapes are really bright and you're going from dark to bright, I mean, they could get seizures. Let's go ahead and hit the escape key on the keyboard, and instead, let's come up here and click on the transition tab, and let's come up and go to slide 1, our first slide. When we begin the presentation, instead of just popping the slide up, what transitions do we want to get us into it? Do we want, well, none, which is what we have now, or do we want it to fade in or to push in where it goes from the bottom up, or wipe it left to right, or let's click on more. You get quite a few things. Ooh, you got something exciting here. Let's do, okay, wind. The previously slide flutters slowly and then blows away, revealing the current slide. Okay, let's go ahead and select that one. And then you get a preview of it. Oh, that went pretty fast. Do you want to see it again? Then come back up here on the Transitions tab, go to the Preview group, and either click on the Preview button there, or add a little star to the left-hand side of that slide. When you hover over it, you can play animations, and it plays all the animations, not just the transition, but also the animations that we'll cover in a later training video, which you'll be able to animate your objects, shapes, text boxes, and have them fly in, zoom in, whatever you want to do there. In any case, let's keep it simple. So we can go ahead and play it again by clicking on that, and it plays it. You can click on Preview. I'll give it a second. Let's click on it. There you go. And it plays it. Now, after you apply your transition, you may have some additional options or effects that you can click on it and say, okay, when it comes to the wind, do you want it from right or left? Let's do left. Okay, it's going off the left-hand side. Oh, that's all right, because today we have a northerly breeze. And that may not be available on all the transitions, but for this one it was. And in fact, at this point, let's go ahead and show it off in our slideshow. And you can come up here, click on the slideshow tab and go to Start Slideshow, and you get a bunch of different options. And we want to do it from the beginning or the current slide. And the current slide we have selected is the first one, so it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead from beginning, and hey, there it goes off the left-hand side. And then you click and you just have the regular pop-ups, no additional transitions. Hit the escape key to get out of that, and you can apply that transition to, well, the same transition to all the slides by coming up here, clicking on the Transitions tab, and make sure we got that slide selected. And over here in the timing group, you can apply to all, and it updates that little animation star to all the slides. And then we can come back here. What other options do we get? The duration of the wind. Oh, I'm going to just drive you guys crazy here and do it super long, like 4 seconds. I mean, that's long, right? Let's go ahead and click on Preview, and here it comes. Oh, it's painfully slow, and then it goes off. And then you can say, okay, let's go to slide 2, and it's just 2 seconds there because I didn't go back to slide 1 and I click Apply to All. It just applied when I did the transition, but not the timing, the changes that I made. So if I want 4-second duration to apply to all, click on it. So when I go to slide 2, you can see 4 seconds is on slide 2 as well as all the others. So you can go ahead and make a change proprietary to that slide. Just don't click Apply to All if you don't want to apply timing and everything else to all the other slides. Okay, other options in the timing here. You can apply sound to it. Click on the drop-down arrow, and let's have some applause. I mean, really, I got a great presentation, and since you guys aren't going to clap for me, I'm going to have somebody, well, the sound applause, have the clap done for me. What does it sound like? Well, we got to give it a test. In fact, let's hit 2 birds with 1 stone. Instead of advancing on mouse click, let's go ahead and do it after. Now, if you have both checked, when you click on the mouse, it will advance, as well as after maybe, let's do 3 seconds. Or if I uncheck that, then it won't advance until it hits the 3-second mark after I begin my slideshow. So let's go ahead and turn up the volume, see if you guys can hear it, and then let's begin our slideshow. You can either come up here and click on the Slideshow tab and go to From Beginning, or the current slide, or come down below on the status bar and click on Slideshow. Oh, thank you. That was fabulous. And you got the clap there. And there's 3 seconds before it goes to the next slide. It did it for me automatically, which is nice, but if I'm the one that's going to have to talk in under 3 seconds and present what's on that slide, I'm in trouble. Let me go ahead and hit the escape key. So you may want to tweak that, your transitions, so it doesn't leave you in the dust. Let's go back to slide 1. There we go. There's the 3 seconds. And for me, I like yammering. I don't want it timed for me, so I'll uncheck that and just do it on mouse click. And I'll show you all the shortcuts when it comes to advancing from one slide to the next besides just using the mouse. But there's the basics to get you going. When it comes to sound, you can click on the drop down arrow and you can do another sound if you want to find it on your computer. Let's go ahead and select that, and then of course browse and find a sound on your computer to play it for you. Let me click cancel and click on the drop down arrow and say no sound. You can stop the previous sound if there was one playing prior to this slide here. But I'm going to go back to no sound. Well, I really like the applause, but you can go ahead and put it back to the way it was. And the 2 seconds here, well, that's long enough, I think. And then go ahead and apply to all so everybody else gets the updates here. So instead of 4 seconds on slide 2, it's updated with 2 seconds, and like all the others. To animate any object within a slide, like a shape, a picture, or how about some text, all you have to do is go ahead and select the object, and for text, click on the text, and note that PowerPoint doesn't see the text separately, but as one entire object, the text box that is. So if you want to animate like force separately from all the other text within that single object, that text box, you have to create its own text box for it. And so you can click anywhere within the box because it'll just see the box as one object and animate all the contents therein, all the text. And so to keep it simple, just click in it. And then to animate the text box and the text therein, then come up here and click on the Animations tab. Go to the Animation group. And there you go. We have none applied to it, but we've got some here like fade. Hover over it, and in the pop-up, it says text or object fades into view. Ooh, fading. That's pretty spooky. Let's go ahead and click on more, and you get more, and it's categorized. Like for your entrances, you can have your, in this case, text box appear, fade in, fly in, or you can do some emphasis like grow or shrink. If you've got some numbers that are increasing, you can really make that grow out and pop out on the slide, or if it's shrinking, that's probably a good idea if the numbers are low so they can't see it. In any case, you can do that, or exit, how you want it to leave, or motion paths, the path that it has to follow in the animation, like in an arc. And we'll cover this in a later training video on advanced animation effects. Now, from what you see here, there's more. So if you want to come down below for entrance effects, you've got more on emphasis, exit, and motion paths. So for entrance, let's click on more entrance effects. We get the same, appear, and you get more of it. And then down below, you get a preview effect. So you don't have to go ahead and select one and click OK to see what it looks like. You can preview it. So if I click and drag this up here so we can see it down below, that if I do like expand, select it, looky there, gave me a preview. Or how about fade? Click on it, it goes through it really fast, and you can set the timing on that, but let's just go ahead and find one that we like. Stretch, that's okay. Well, if I don't like any of them, if I click cancel, it won't apply what I have selected here unless, of course, I click OK, but I won't. I'll click cancel. There's no animation applied to that object, the text box. Let's come back up here, click on more, and what I want to do is I want font color. You can see in the pop-up, text becomes a specified font color. Click on it, and the default is to a hot pink. And so after it plays it through in the auto preview, then it tags it with a number sequentially beginning with 1 to let you know that that's the first animation applied to any of your objects on the slide. And so if I add an additional animation effect to, well, you can apply it to the same object here. Just come up here and click on Add Animation. But that's Advanced Animation. We'll talk about Advanced Animation and also timing in a later training video. I want to keep it simple here. So it tags it to let you know that animation is being applied to this. And also over here in the thumbnail preview, you got this little star that has lines behind it. It's like a shooting star. And as you recall in the previous training video on transitions, when you add a transition as you're going from one slide to the next, where the next slide fades in, pushes in, wipes in, it also adds a star. So let me click on animations. By looking at that star, you can't say it's a transition or an animation because it could be one or the other or both. It just means that something's being applied to a transition or animation that you can play all the way through, including the transition effect. So click on it and it plays it through to a hot pink. Of course, if you want to play it through and you don't want to click on the star there, you can come up here on the Animation tab, click on Preview there. And also, in addition to that, let me click on the drop-down arrow, you have the Auto Preview. So if you have a lot of objects you're applying animations to, and to see each one play out when you apply it is taking up too much time, then uncheck it. So next time when you apply animation like to this text box here, then come up here, let's click on Fly In. It doesn't fly it in. I don't get the Auto Preview, but it tags it as being the second animation in a series of a total 2. The order of operation being this is the first one, that's the second one. But if I want to see it in action, preview it, well, you can come up here, click on the star, click on Preview here. It does the first one to a hot pink when it's completed its animation, and hey, that one flies in from the bottom. Now, if you don't like the color here or the way this one flies in other words, you want to know if there's more effect options after you apply one of the effects here, well, there you go, effect options. And of course, it's proprietary to the effect that you have selected, because since this is flying in, as it's highlighted here, make sure you've got it selected here, the right object, because if you got a lot of text boxes that are flying in, well, you want to make sure that you click in the text box that you want to change the effect option therein. You can also click on the tags here. When I select number 1, you can see the font color is to this text box, or click in the text box, either or. Let me come back up here, click on number 2, so it's a fly in, and click on its effect options. Instead of from the bottom, we could do from the top. And let's come down here and change the color. So instead of going from a light blue to hot pink, click on it and let's go to purple. And then when we're done, let's preview it and it goes to a purple. Oh, that's not, oh, that comes down from the top. Now, if it's a bit fast for you, the timing on the way it comes in, or maybe it's too slow, like come up here, it came in really fast. And we'll cover this in a later training video, but to whet your appetite, let's go ahead and click in there and then come up here on the Animations tab to the timing group, and that's the duration. So if you're like, oh, that's way too fast, you can come and use the spin dial and make it take longer to get from the top down, or you can come in here and just type in 5 and hit enter. And then let's play it through. Click on it. Does our deep purple. Oh, that is painfully slow. For me it is, and there we go, it's done. So you want to see what it looks like when we actually give our presentation, slideshow. Now to begin the slideshow, you can do it one of many ways. You can either come up here and click on the slideshow tab, and to start the slideshow, you can do it from the beginning, and well, that's what we're on, the first slide from the beginning. Or if you're on slide 2, you can still click on the beginning and it will go back to slide 1, or if you do current slide, it's going to be, well, the slide that you have selected here. You can do it that way, or you can come down here on the status bar and click on the slideshow button here, and it will start on the current slide that we see here, number 2. Or you can hit the F5 key on the keyboard, that's a shortcut, and it takes you right to the very beginning, the first slide in the presentation. And so it's waiting for us to do something before it begins the animation. By default, it's all set to a mouse click. So when I click once, it begins the first animation effect. Ooh, that's nice purple. When I click again, it brings down the next one. Oh, that is total focus. Well, notice as far as the color goes, it stays purple, right? It doesn't change back to light blue because this isn't an auto preview. This is a permanent thing in our presentation. It transitions to the color and it stays there, slides down in and it stays there. So when I click on the mouse button, it goes to the next slide. Well, there you go. Let's hit the escape key on the keyboard and go back to slide 1. Oh yeah, one last thing that's pretty important. You can see the tags here for the animations. Those are only viewable on the Animations tab. So if you click off like on the Design tab, you won't be able to see them. You're like, do I have any animation on here? Well, if you look over here in the thumbnail preview as we talked about, it will indicate that you either have a transition applied to the slide or animation. But if you really want to know if there's animation, you don't care about the transitions, then the only way to find out is going to the Animations tab, and then it reveals the tags tied to the objects of the animation and their order, 1, 2, and so on. If you have some information you'd like to share with your audience when you come to a slide and you can't or you don't want to put it on the slide, like it's something you'd rather read from or a task to do in which you want a reminder to do it when you get to a certain slide, like here I'm on slide 2, and when I get to this slide I want to hand out some ghost keychains. It's got our website on it, so when they're opening up their house, unlocking it, and they get spooked, hey, they got the keys right there. They can run away from the haunted house, but they're taking their keys with them. So they can check us out so we can come in and investigate. Sounds pretty cool. In any case, what you can use is what's called notes. And the notes are found down at the bottom in the normal view of your main working area, right there, notes. And they're also known as speaker notes, because what you can do is you can print these off. So when you print off all of these speaker notes for each slide, each page is going to have up at the top of it the picture of the slide, like slide 2 will have the picture of it here, and then down below all the notes that I type in. So here we've got our notes that you can click in and add some notes that you can read, or maybe a to-do thing like Handout Goes Keychains, whatever you like when you get to this slide. And I assume that maybe you're projecting this up on the wall through a projector from off your computer, that you can go ahead and say, oh, it's on our website, and then look at the page that has the picture of this, the slide, up at the top on our website, and then down below, read your notes. But right here, it's in the normal view, it's right below there. And so I've got that on slide 2. Slide 3, type in any notes. Slide 4, when I print this off, when I get to it, I can read the old 3-phase development process followed in the last year, proven to be an expensive and time-consuming process. Oh well. Slide 5. Okay. When you get to a slide that doesn't have any notes, it'll give you the prompt text. It says click to add notes, and that's not going to print off. It's just prompt. So when you click on it, then it disappears, and you can go ahead and type in any notes as much as you'd like, except you got just one line here. When you get to the line, it won't stop. It just only shows one line at a time. So if you have paragraphs of text that you're typing in, this can be annoying, because if you're like me and you're reading this line and you hit enter and type in a new line, you're like, oh, did I include that in the previous line? Well, you'd have to scroll up in this teeny tiny little window here. So instead, we can go to the notes pages, and there it'll show us what it's really going to look like when we print it off. It'll have a picture of a slide, and then below that all the notes, but not in a one-line viewing format. It'll show us multiple lines. It'll show us a big text box. In fact, let's go to it right now. Come up here, click on the View tab, go to the Presentation Views group, and, well, that's the normal view that we're in right now, where we can see the notes down below. And you can see in the icon, we've got the thumbnail preview on the left-hand side, the big main working area, and then below that, that empty box there, well, that's supposed to be the notes. In any case, we want to go to the Notes page. And you can see in the pop-up, it says, see how your presentation will look when printed out with notes. Each page will contain one slide and its speaker notes. And again, it says Notes page, but typically it's used as speaker notes. So if you want to go ahead and reference this during the presentation, notes that you don't want to put up here on the slide for everybody else to see, they're going to be just for you. So click on Notes page, and okay, can't see the entire page. And what page am I on? Down below in the status bar, I'm on slide 5 of 9, or Notes, which includes the slide and the notes down below. And then over here, when you click and hold down that scrolly bar, it gives you a pop-up and says you're on Notes 5 of 9, Ghost Hunters. Let's go up to slide 2 of 9 on our website, Let Go. And it's where we hand out Ghost Keychains. Okay, still can't see the top and the bottom, so down below you do have your slidey bar. You can click and drag to zoom in or out. But to see the entire page, go ahead and click on that last icon there, Fit Slide to Current Window. Click on it, and that's what it's going to look like when you print these notes pages out. So it gives you a picture of your slide, and then the notes down below. So when you have, I've got a total of 9, I print off 9 pages, and I go to slide 2, I'll look up on the wall where I'm projecting this up on, this slide here, and go, oh, on our website, and then go to this page, and then start reading my notes. And I can't see it, but remember, we're at, right here, 53%. Okay, let me move my mouse out of the way. 53% of 100%. And so if you want to go ahead and zoom in, and we just keep, okay, snap to 100%, but if you can't get to 100%, you can click on 100% and get more persnickety and actually type it in here or select 100% there and click okie dokie, and there you go. So at 100%, when this is printed out, these notes pages, that's what it's going to look like, and that looks legible to me. But if you're like, okay, I'd like larger size font here, go ahead and click in it, and you get a text box. That's all it is. So you can go ahead and type in some extra notes, and of course it will show up when you're in the normal view, because what you do in the normal view will show up here. What you type in the text box here will show up in the normal view. And so let's go ahead and select that, and in the mini formatting toolbar, click and resize this to size 28. You can change the colors of it, make it bold and beautiful. And so at 100%, that's going to be quite legible. And of course, you got your resizing handles, not just for the text box here, but let me go ahead and fit this to current window, but also for the image. So if you want this slide image to be bigger, go ahead and you can move it around, reposition it, click here, hover over the border, click and drag that down, and you've got your rotating handle. You can tilt it. Well, let's not go too far. In any case, in my excitement, I get carried away. Let's click off. So that's what you can do in the Notes page view. And then to go ahead and print these off, well, you can come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Print, and the default print is going to be the full page of your slides. So we want to include the notes. Go ahead and click on it. Come up here, there's the layout, full page slides. We want Notes pages. Select it, and there we go. And you can see I'm on slide 2 of 9. And we've got our large text, and that's at 51% of normal size. So if I click and drag and zoom that to 100%, and then I scroll over and I go down, that's what it's going to look like when I print it off. That's really legible. So let's go ahead and go to slide 3, and that's what it's going to look like. I guess it's okay, but if you're in a dark room and you have little to no light, that might be a little bit too hard to see. And speaking of which, when you're down here, you can also type in the Notes page you want to go to or slide, hit enter, it jumps right to it. So you can use the arrows or type in a number. And then let's come over here and zoom to page so you can see it in its entirety, the slide with the notes down below. And so that's on slide 2. We typed in extra, so if I go back and I go to the normal view and slide 2, there you go. So what you type in the Notes pages view also shows here, and in the normal goes to the Notes page view as well. Okay, one final thing that I want you to know before we end the video is that you don't have to print off your speaker notes. You can actually have them up during your presentation without anybody else seeing them. How does that work? I'm glad you asked. Let's come up here and click on the Slideshow tab and go to the Monitors group, and it's right there, Use Presenter View. You can see when I hover over it, the pop-up says the presenter view shows the full screen slide on one monitor and a speaker view on another monitor showing a preview of the next slide, your speaker notes, a timer, and more. So that way you can read all your stuff, in fact even play solitaire, and they won't even see what you're doing. Probably not a good idea, but to keep it more professional, or when you want to be able to read your speaker notes without having to print them off and you don't want to use a lot of paper, just go ahead, if you got another monitor or a projector through that you're projecting up that can act as that second monitor, then use the presenter view. And this is how it works. I've got my primary monitor here, so what you need to do when it says monitor is, as you can see in the pop-up, which monitor do you want to show your presentation on? Because it says presenter view, that doesn't mean that this is the presenter. This is the actual presentation. So my primary monitor is what you're seeing here. I have a second monitor over to the left-hand side, and when I click on it, it's called monitor, well, there's the name of it. So which monitor do I want my presentation to be on? I'll say the primary. So my presenter view is not going to be on this one that you see, it's going to be on the other monitors. So when I go ahead and make sure that it's checked to use the presenter view, and I go to the Slideshow tab, and on the Slideshow tab, the same tab, come over here to start the slideshow from the beginning. Okay, there's my presentation. That's not the presenter view. So I can just click and this is what you're seeing, but on my other monitor, I see something different. I know you're dying to see it, so fine. Let's go ahead and hit the Escape key, and let's switch this to say the main presentation is going to be on my other monitor, and then the presenter view is going to be on the primary here. So when I come up here and click on From Beginning, hey, looky there. Okay, this is how it works. Oh, I get that annoying timer. It's like I'm wasting a lot of time. I just keep seeing the seconds tick away. Well, it's actually showing you how much time you're taking on each slide. I'm going to pause that. I don't want to see that. And then the current time. So here's the slide that everybody else is seeing on the other monitor, or if you're projecting this up on a screen, up on the projector there. And so you can see over here in the task pane, you got the next slide. Now the notes is not for the next slide, it's for the current slide. So that's what I'm talking about. You don't have to print off your speaker notes. Let's go to the next slide by clicking on it, and there we go, slide 2, our website. And at this point, we hand out ghost keychains. Now again, nobody else can see this. They're just getting what you just saw before I went to the presenter view here, this main view here. That's it. And this is fun because I can do a lot of things in here. I can play around, I can minimize this down to the taskbar, I can play solitaire, and it won't project it. Isn't that cool? In any case, if you want to learn more about this, I recommend that you watch my training video on slideshow setup, and in that I'll have my presenter view as well. And to not leave you hanging, if your text here is too large and you want to fit more because you have more down below, you can use these, shrink it up, or go ahead and click on it several times to make it huge. And then when you're done, you can of course click on End Slideshow or just close out of the presenter viewer altogether, and we're back. To change your slide size and or orientation, whether it's portrait or landscape, okay, the portrait orientation is more vertical and the landscape is more horizontal, and this one is more horizontal. How do you know? Well, let me show you. Come up here with me, good neighbor. Click on the Design tab, go to the Customize group, click on Slide Size, and there you go. It's highlighted. It's a standard 4:3 ratio. So the 4 is width, and the ratio to the height is, well, it's less than 4, it's 3. So if I want to go in high def, widescreen, you can go ahead and do a 16:9 ratio, so 16 width and the 9 for the height, and select it, and it stretches it out. Now if you want to go back to it, well, you see the text right here, how it got pushed in over. I mean, we can go ahead and click and drag that out to the lower left-hand corner, as I liked it in the portrait versus the widescreen kind of in the middle here. But what I can do is when I click on it and I go back to standard, well, when it collapses it and it wants to bring it back to something smaller, you get two options. Click on it, and it says, okay, you're scaling down your slide to a new size. Do you want to go ahead and cut it off so it scales back to that size, or do you want to ensure the fit? In other words, crunch everything down, scale it down to ensure it all fits into that smaller slide. Well, it's up to you. I'm going to ensure the fit, click on it, and it pulls everything in, scales it down, and well, the text boxes here, even though it's back to a 4:3 ratio, it's not the same. I mean, it's moved out here in the center. So in any case, let me hit undo a couple of times. See, that's what it was originally before I started messing with it. So keep that in mind. You may have to do some adjusting, moving your text boxes or objects back into place if you start going back and forth between the two. And there's not just two, but let me click on the drop down arrow. There's more. Click on Custom Slide Size. So as far as the orientation goes, you have your landscape and your portrait. Now we're in a 4:3 ratio, but if I go from a landscape where, you know, the width is longer than the height, but not too much in the 4:3, and I go to portrait, notice how it updated the width and the height. So the width is skinnier and the height is higher. When you click Okie dokie, then it says, okay, do we cut off the width or do we go ahead and ensure the fit? Scale it down so it's more higher than it is wide. What's it going to do with the extra love handles here? Well, let's ensure the fit and just pull it all in and not cut it off. And there you go. Ooh, that's horrifying. That's pretty skinny. That's not going to work for me. So I can go ahead and hit undo, or I could come back and click on the drop down arrow and tweak it some more here with Customize Slide Size. And it's back to landscape. And then we got notes, handouts, and outline. Now we covered notes. We'll cover handouts and outline in a later training video, but when it comes to those, you can choose if you want portrait or landscape when you print those off. And let's see, well, you got the templates, the defaults you can go through, including the on-screen show 16, ratio 9, or 16:10, widescreen, or do something custom, which is what I'm going to do. So when I do custom, it just means that I'm going to go ahead and choose something different for the width and height. Even if I chose something else like the 16:9 ratio, well, you can mess with it here and go, okay, that's close to what I want, but I want to tweak it some more. The moment you start adjusting these up or down using the spin dial options, it goes to custom. You can either go ahead and use the spin dial, or you can come in here, type it in, and then hit the tab key and update it. And then you've got your number of slides from, well, beginning with 1. We'll cover how to number your slides in a later training video to keep it simple here. And when we're done, go ahead and click Okie dokie, and there's the new custom slide. If it's smaller in width or height, then it says, do you want to go ahead and keep it proportional and cut off the excess, or go ahead and ensure the fit? Let's go ahead and, well, keep it proportional and maximize it, and there you go. Now the text is a lot larger because it cut off the excess, even if it's just a little. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video. There's a lot of print options when it comes to printing your presentation, and to find out what those are, and also to print off your presentation, come with me, good neighbor. Let's come up here and click on the File tab, go backstage, down to Print. You can do it that way, or you can use the shortcut keys. Let me hit the back arrow, Control P, takes you right to it. So you have your preview of each slide. There's slide 1 of 9. You can toggle through each one of them. And when you're ready, you can come up here and click on Print and print one copy of each slide, or you can go ahead and type in 2, 3, 4, use the spin dials, and choose the printer. Click on the drop-down arrow, select your printer, and the printer properties, like if you want to increase the DPI, dots per inch, so it's sharper and crisper, click on it. And on the Paper Quality tab, there's the print quality. The higher the DPI, the better. Let's go ahead and leave it at 600 and click Okie dokie. And then to get to the meat of this, we want to be able to print all the slides. Well, click on the drop-down arrow. You can print only the selected slides or the current slide. Now, I haven't selected more than one slide, and the current slide is the first slide. So if I do this, let me hit the back arrow. There's the first slide selected, and I hold down the Control key and I select slides 3 and 5. Now the last slide that I have selected, and all 3 are selected, you can see that they're highlighted, is Ghost Hunters. Keep that in mind. I've got 3 slides. The last one I selected is Ghost Hunters. So let's go ahead and do Control P, go backstage. Instead of all slides, you can print selection, print the selected slides. So go ahead and select that. You can see I have a total of 3 slides, no more. So that's what I have selected. Or click on the drop-down arrow, you can print the current slide. Now the current slide is the last slide that I had selected, and that was the Ghost Hunters. So when I select that, I don't have 3 slides, I just have 1, which is the last slide that I have selected out of the 3. And then let's see, click on More. You can do a custom range. When you do custom range, it just dumps you right down into the box here. And you can see when I hover over it, there's a pop-up of how to enter in, for an example, what slides you want to print. So if I just want to print slides 2 and maybe 5 through 12, do comma, and then no space, and then 5-12, and then maybe comma, 16. So does that make sense? I'm printing off slides 2, 5 through 12, and then 16, excluding 3 and 4, and then 13 and 15. Well, I don't have up to 16, I just have through 9. In any case, hover over it to get a sample of what you can do when it comes to printing off specific slides, and then I'm going to delete it. You can also click on the drop-down arrow and print, I don't know if you can see that, hidden slides. And we'll talk about that in a later training video, how you can hide your slides. What that means is that in the design view, you can see it. When you give the presentation, it's not part of the presentation. That way you don't have to waste time creating a separate presentation for a specific audience when you're basically going to be using your presentation for the majority of the audience. Maybe just 1 or 2 slides you don't want to show to certain audiences. In any case, you can hide them. And so if you'd like to print those off, just those, for a specific audience or just for you, well, there you go, print hidden slides. Let me go ahead and click off. And then you can do full page slides, which is what we have here, the default. You do notes page or speaker notes, select that. We covered that in an earlier training video where you get a picture of the slide and down below any notes that you have for each of your slides, like here. And what else we got? So there's the notes page. Then we have an outline, so it removes all images just in text. Select it, and there you go. Well, you want me to zoom in, I bet. Let's go ahead and click and drag, and there it is. So you have the slides numbered, but not the image of the slide and the text on the slide. And it looks fancy. And then we can go ahead and change it from outline to handouts. Hey, if you want to hand this out during your presentation, people are like, hey, I'd like a handout. I would like a copy of your presentation, but in printed format. You can do 1 slide. Let me go ahead and come down here and click on Zoom to Page so you can see what it looks like. So there's 1 slide per page. Gives them a little bit of room up above and below to write notes. Or what are the other options? Click on it. 2 slides per page. That makes sense, right? There's 2. But my favorite is 3 slides because it adds little lines over to the right-hand side. So, hey, they can write notes next to the slide, make comments, help you with your presentation by doing a review. Or, if there's something that you're doing a sales presentation and you want people to write down what they would like to purchase from you, write down their orders here, they could do that. Click on it, and oh, you could just go crazy. There's 4, 6, 9. Oh man, let's go up to 9 vertical instead of horizontal. And you still get room to write notes underneath these slides. Not too bad. And then you can print one-sided, or if your printer allows you to print on both sides of the paper, go for it. And the difference is to flip pages on long edge versus the short edge. So you get some samples there. Click off. Collated, how you want to print it off. Do you want it, let's click on the drop down arrow, the first slide on the first page and then the second slide on the second page, or do you want, if you print off like 5 copies of each slide, where it doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but it goes the first 5 pages of the first slide, the second 5 pages of the second slide, and then the third 5 pages of the third slide. In any case, I'll keep it collated. And then the print orientation, portrait or landscape orientation, and you can see it goes wider. That looks fancy. And then if you want to print in grayscale, color, pure black and white, well, color's not going to work for me because I don't have a color printer hooked up. So depending upon the printer you have selected, if it's a color printer, you ought to be able to see color over here. And then finally, you can come down here and click on Edit Header and Footer, which we haven't talked about just yet. And it can be for your notes and handouts, your speaker notes, or you can add a heading for each slide or each page. And also you can have that be included on each slide itself instead of just the notes and handouts. But we'll talk about that in a later training video. But no, once you have it set up, it should be checked here, but you can always change it here on the fly before you go ahead and print off your slides. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.